Most of the Fat Controller's engines accepted diesels, but James had never liked them. "Alright," said Henry, "they're just mixed traffic engines like us." "Mixed up engines, more like. With windows at each end, how can we know if they're coming or going?" groaned James. "Toby has two cabs and he gets on alright." "Toby's just a little engine. If an important engine like me didn't know which way to turn, then what would this railway come to?" grumbled James. All the engines agreed that James was getting too puffed up for a smoke box. "Making out as royalty or something," grumbled Henry. "It's despicable." "I knew an engine called King James," remarked Duck. "Oh, he was in Paddington, King James the First. But he never swanked about like that." "Oh, please don't be telling James that," pleaded Donald. "Ugh, it's even more of a misery he'll be making our lives." "Exactly," agreed Henry. "But who's going to trim his wheels for him?" The engines tried all sorts of ideas, but nothing worked, and James grew so conceited that the others were so pleased when he went away. Even the coaches were chatting anxiously to each other. They didn't want James to pull them anytime soon. One day, James came into the yard, fuming with rage. "Shunting? Where are Donald and Douglas? They should be here for jobs like that, not me." But the twins were busy helping Edward on his branch line. James had no other choice but to do the work all by himself. James wished to shunt some long, old and heavy trucks which had bogie wheels, and they weren't used in a very long time. They were used to be used to carry parts to build the main line, but now they had long been since used. The shunting should have been easy, but James was bumping them around. "Ow, ow, 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 ow," screamed the trucks. "We don't like that, we don't like that." Some of them tried to put the brakes on, but James was too strong. The weather was damp and misty too, so the shunting was going to take a very long time. At last, James was near the end of the yard. But because of the mist, the signalman sometimes found it hard to see what was happening. James's driver taught the signalman that when he blew his whistle, they were finished with the trucks and he could switch the points. They were almost finished when suddenly an engine was coming into the yards and they blew their whistle. The signalman had heard the whistle, but he thought it was James saying he was ready. The signalman began to pull the lever that was set to the main line, but James wasn't ready. The points changed where one of the trucks was halfway over them. One of the bogies went the right way, but the other one was diverted to the main line. Before James realized it, the trucks were traveling sideways between the two lines. Soon a signal stood right in its path. "Stop!" said a truck. "Stop!" But it was too late. The signal toppled to the ground. It landed with a crash, just missing James. "That's done it," said his driver. "The Fat Controller surely won't like that." He definitely didn't. He spoke severely about it. The signal was very important, and its loss was inconvenient. James knew the accident wasn't his fault, and he was very unusually quiet in the sheds that evening. The others were relieved. "I suppose it is difficult of which way you want to go when you got two cabs," whispered a voice in the back. "But to go two ways at once with one cab, the idea of it is just despicable." James knew who that was. He pretended he hadn't heard it. "You know," said Thomas, "for some engine who doesn't like diesels, it's a bit strange how he's acting like one." And all the other engines laughed.